That was always the worst part about PAing on a set, was taking room tone, because I have an inability to stand still when asked. Ordinarily, I'm very still. I'm like a statue. People have said that before. She's statuesque. But if you ask me to be still, I have no choice but to move. No one can tell me what to do. I'm a grown up.
I am ADHD as shit, so I mean, Hillary will tell you she just like constantly is like stopping my leg from shaking. So yeah, I can't stand still.
That's awesome. I need a Hillary.
I pace. I like to pace my talk. I'm not gonna do it on this podcast, but you know, I might just pick up the pod. You know,
I mean, it's a long cord. You can do whatever feels natural.
It might have to happen at some point in time, but for right now, I'm sitting down.
I like it.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. Guys, welcome back to Strong Female Lead. This is Tessa, and we have a very special guest. You've already heard his voice. First male on the pod. I want to call you Podfather, but
I'm so honored.
You've been our pod guardian angel. Do angels have genders? No,
I'm a big fan. I'm a super fan. Strong female lead super fan, I would say. So this is exciting. Yeah,
you've been there since its inception, in the wings, kind of Phantom of the Opera like.
It's been fun to watch the journey and to hear this thing turn into something, you know, pretty unique and everything. So I'm honored to be here. Thank you.
I love it. Guys, this is Andrew.
Hi, I'm Andrew, and we've got a fun movie to discuss today. But yeah, Tessa, it's very fun to be here. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Andrew, do you want to give the people your Instagrams and all that stuff so they can follow you? I'm sure they're going to be super interested in following your entire life.
Yeah, sure. So my Twitter handle is President Kodos.
President Kodos?
At President Kodos. And you can also probably keep in touch with us the most stuff. So I have a company called Team Merchant. We're a payments company. And so you can find us at teammerchant.com, and we've got all the social medias too for Team Merchant. So I'm just excited to talk about one of my favorite movies today. It's absolutely something that I've seen this movie probably about 100, 150 times at this point in time in my life. I think the first time I watched it was at 6 or 7, which is not appropriate.
It is a perfect age to be introduced to a strong female lead.
It is.
Right in the good developmental stages. You're just like, women are badass.
We'll get into it, but I'm not even kidding, because I did, grow up with a lot of media that, while, still considered classic and iconic, has a lot of bad messages about women. And I do think for, despite that it is early 90s and it's not perfect, this movie holds up in a strong female lead way. So I'm excited to hear what you think about it in that kind of regard here. So
yeah, I'm excited because this was my first viewing of any Terminator. I had really thought that I'd seen the first one, really thought that I'd seen it. And I had not. I had no idea what was happening. Other than Arnold Schwarzenegger is the Terminator, but sometimes he's a bad Terminator and other times he's a good Terminator.
It is confusing because it's the same person, he looks the same, and sometimes he's there to kill you, and sometimes...
Should have given him a creative scarf or something so I could distinguish.
It's like Steven Tyler.
I don't know. Well, he's a good guy now.
Just picturing him.
Some sort of flourish. A lighter shade of black. From black to gray.
I'm just picturing him dressed like the mic stand from Aerosmith right now, and I'm just it's not...
I would run from that guy. Linda Carter. It's Linda Hamilton, and I'm sorry. I'm going to say Linda Carter because I love Wonder Woman. I'm not going to lie. I love her. And so it's Linda Hamilton.
Well, and Linda Hamilton is a wonderful woman, so...
She is. Yeah. She is. I'm so excited. So we actually got requests from the listeners to do the newest Terminator, so we'll have to have you back to talk about the new one because Linda Hamilton is actually back in her leather jacket.
Yeah, let's talk about the continuity stuff for a second because so we did Terminator 2 for this episode. We're going to briefly mention Terminator 1. It's a classic. It's a B movie. It was James Cameron's first big movie.
Yeah, I liked it.
James Cameron's he makes the movies that are 3D about the blue. It's like
Fern
Gully.
Avatar.
Yeah, exactly. Fern Gully in space. Yeah, and I'm very excited for the last ones because, again, Cameron hasn't made a bad movie, and so I don't know how the Avatar 2 through 9 are not going to be awful, but we're going to see.
Is he really making that many more?
No, it's 2 through 4, I think.
Wow.
Yeah, and they're all slated to roll out here, and after the Disney acquisition of Fox, I think they're under Fox. Mm-hmm. It's still on the docket and everything, and he's just been sitting around for 10 years spending $1 billion undersea.
That's what I thought. Isn't he underwater in a capsule? just hanging out underwater trying to like find new molecules and megalodons and stuff.
He's an interesting person. But and this is his whole first thing. And Terminator 1 was his kind of breakout into the scene. It was Arnold's big first kind of role. I think filmed at the same time Conan the Barbarian was, but I don't know if it was actually released yet.
I think that's what I thought this movie was for some reason. Because I loved Conan the Barbarian as a kid because the way I don't know what they were
his
like.
Pectoral muscles just glisten in the sun? Or?
Not him. The like villain characters were just like, they were like, it almost looks like stop motion one. And I was like, what? Like, it was so great. You guys watched Conan the Barbarian.
You're talking about like the skeleton stuff where it's like
yeah. Or maybe that's the Skeletor. What is that show?
Jason on the Ark. Well, there's He-Man.
Maybe that's what I'm thinking.
There's a lot of things I think that are maybe like all mushing together right there. Like I'm hearing Jason the Argonauts. I'm hearing
guys. I think I'm a big fan of Arnold Schwarzenegger, and I never realized it. I'm a real big fan.
He has a delightful catalog of movies. We can get into a whole different discussion.
Oh, yeah.
Commando's great. There's such wonderful subtext of
Is
like
he in
homoerotic.
Super Troopers? I've always meant to watch that movie also.
He's not in Super Troopers. He is in Junior, where he gets pregnant with Danny DeVito.
Yeah, I loved it. And Twins.
And Jingle All the Way.
And Kindergarten Cop.
Kindergarten Cop is a classic. Jingle All the Way is also with, I believe, Tim Allen and Sinbad are both in that movie.
I do remember that. Yeah, when they're trying to get that toy, and they're like in Minnesota or something.
Yeah, no, and
guys, I'm a real big fan. I didn't realize.
But all that wouldn't have been possible without this movie. I mean, all the Arnold Schwarzenegger being a comedy icon, all that stuff happened after Terminator 2. This movie still is one of the biggest action movies of all time. It's iconic. There's a lot of scenes that you can kind of see just still to this day that are just pulled from this one, or this one did it first, and kind of like created the genre both in terms of effects and stuff. But one of the things that I always found most fascinating about the Terminator series is why I also love Aliens, which is also, James Cameron did the second one, is that in most of the late 80s, early 90s big action movies, and even through the rest of the 90s, I mean, it's just incredibly male-dominated. A lot of it's almost unintentionally or maybe intentionally homoerotic in the most hilarious
of
ways.
It's intentional.
Definitely sometimes. Top Gun.
It's only so much
you can't
baby oil you can put on someone without it being like, okay, that's what we're doing. Okay.
The way that Arnold in Commando is filmed and like is moving big logs, it's sexy.
I feel like the 90s was also the era of like the male butt.
Yes.
Like a lot of male butt scenes.
A lot of
Terminator
male butt
2
scenes.
really
it starts
nailed
with that
it also.
Just nice. You get both Arnold and the skinny cop with the elf ears, the T-1000s. Just nice, cheeky white ass like right there. Yeah, no, and so, but what I loved about Terminator is that it actually is very female-driven film. The lead kind of arc of the story is the story of Sarah Connor, and it just is really amazing because we'll get into it more, but like it's just never a situation where it feels like her gender once in the entirety of the, especially second movie, is played for anything other than the fact that she's a mother and cares about her son and everything. You know what I mean? So it's fascinating. I just think also just like having watched as many times as I have, like I really feel like it is a unique movie given the time capsule of what it is. And I think part of it has to do with the fact that crazy James Cameron's an interesting person who also has a very strong attraction to like militaristic strong women.
I do not doubt that for a second.
But why don't we go ahead and jump into it? So
quick cue. Did Alien come out before Terminator 2 or Terminator?
So Alien, first Alien came out in 1979, I think.
Oh wow.
Aliens came out after Terminator 1, before Terminator 2.
Okay.
Aliens was like James Cameron's first like they give him money for a movie. Because Terminator 1 is kind of janky. I mean, there's some effects budgets. If you like stop motion, I mean, the stuff with the Terminator. Let's get into Terminator talk real quick. So
I just don't like to be really afraid. So, like, the stop motion really, like, brings it down for me.
That is... Terminator 1 is your movie then. Because it is. I mean, it's well directed. James Cameron did the whole thing on a shoestring budget. It's really actually interesting. So, they filmed it in... LA, and he filmed it essentially like on back lots, just after things were shut down. And what was amazing is that they, in one of the new movies, and we're going to not talk about anything besides Terminator 1 and 2, the new movie that's coming out right now that Linda Hamilton's coming back into will now be kind of just wiping the slates clean.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of stuff, and it would take way too long to explain, and most of them suck. And like we were saying before this started, the only good thing to come out of like the sequels after Terminator 2 is Christian Bale yelling at the person on set. So,
which if we haven't already inserted that clip before, we're gonna insert it here.
Yeah, we're insert it right now.
Kick your fucking ass! I want you off the fucking set, you prick!
Sorry.
No, don't just be sorry. Think for 1 fucking second. The fuck are you doing?
And we're back.
Christian Bale. Ugh, what a gem.
You interesting man. Yeah, so that was the only good thing to come out of this. We're not going to talk about the other sequels, but, Terminator 2, it really does kind of, I think, get set up with maybe a good little bit of context for what happened in Terminator 1. Do you think that'd be helpful to start, or?
I mean, I think no. I feel like they should be as lost as I was.
You don't need to watch Terminator 1 to figure out what happened.
They do a recap at the beginning of the movie. So you and everyone knows the general story of Terminator.
Yeah.
Linda Hamilton is Connor. I don't know any of their names.
Sarah Connor.
Sarah Connor.
So Sarah Connor is a waitress in 1984 in Los Angeles, and all of a sudden, a naked Arnold Schwarzenegger comes back in time to kill her.
Yeah.
And a good-looking man by the name of Kyle Reese also gets sent back in time naked. All these people find pants.
Why can't clothes come with them?
It has to do, there's like a line about organic material, but mostly it's just to get that sweet ass.
The science just isn't there yet.
Yeah,
I get
exactly.
that. Okay.
And the first one of the best parts is there's a great Bill Paxton cameo once Arnold Schwarzenegger takes his clothes and stuff. But so first one, story about a woman and her baby daddy who gets sent back from the future, knocks her up, saves her from robot. The Terminators are
the original Terminator, which is the bad Arnold.
Right, and they are listed by their model type, and that's a T-800.
So just for us lay people, do you want to give us the rundown as an expert on Terminator 2?
I would love to, Tessa. I love this movie. Sarah Connor is pregnant at the end of the first one. We see her kind of looking off into the future. Kyle Reese is dead. Terminator's dead.
Wait, how is she looking into the future?
I mean, just looking off into the distance.
Oh, into the distance.
But it's like the
Because I'm like, yeah, okay. She has premonitions or something?
Yes, she has premonitions. So,
so she's a witch.
She does. So, Terminator 2 starts much in the same Terminator 1 does, with kind of a flash vision of the horrible apocalypse future.
Mm-hmm. Which is tomorrow, so get ready.
Trump 2020. So they had a bigger budget than the first time, and it's actually pretty cool what the first one was given the budget that they had. But I was talking with Tessa about this. I really do think that Terminator 2 particularly is just an incredibly well written. It's up there with Die Hard for one of the better.
It's very clean. There's some continuity errors, but I'm like, okay, that's forgiven.
Yeah, and they're good at setting up, I think, the stakes and also kind of transitioning to where it really doesn't drop in action at any point in that movie. I mean, there's just constantly a nut set piece coming around the corner and everything.
Yeah.
So it starts out, and then, you have the whole setup with this movie introduces John Connor. Now, why the hell is Sarah Connor so important, and why were robots trying to kill her in the 80s? It's because she, her baby daddy, who impregnated her from the future, gives birth with her to the future leader of humanity's resistance to the machines. It's her son, John Connor. And so this movie introduces us to John Connor, played by
little shit.
By Edward Furlong, a very squeaky young child. And they introduce it right off the bat. He's living with foster parents in L.A. He's best friends with Budnick. With the fucking amazing ginger mullet in this movie. There's so many.
Are people bringing back mullets? Because I would like to
they really
join that campaign. I want more mullets.
Oh, my Christ.
I'm bringing back, I keep telling myself I'm bringing back Jerry curls. I've been wearing my hair curly lately, and I'm like, every morning I'm like, it's really fun to get ready. Because I leave the house with a Jerry curl, and then it turns into a fro, but for those few hours, I'm like, Jerry curling it up.
Yeah.
It's great.
Good. Do you? So Budnick is hanging out with Edward Furlong, John Connor's character, and they get up to no good, and he's got this amazing little hacking tool where he just plugs in a card to an ATM and just gets cash out of it, which
Yeah, I would love one of those.
sounds pretty nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like 8-year-old is, he's like 10 in the movie, 10 or 11.
He has a motorcycle, so I'm going to guess he's 21.
Yeah, no, he's not. He's definitely like
Just
a 10-year-old.
very small.
And yeah, he just runs around on a motorcycle like a full. It's like in not
Fun.
It's
Yep.
a dirt bike, but that thing's got to be at least like I don't know 100.
It looks like it weighs as much as he does, so I don't know how he's riding it at all.
It's a not insignificant bike that he has around, enough to escape a Terminator, and that's what happens. So in this movie, as opposed to the previous one where Arnold Schwarzenegger is the bad guy, they send the T-1000. The newest, latest model of Terminator.
Looks a lot like Forrest Gump.
Yes, he does.
He looks a lot like him. It's not Tom Hanks, but maybe it is.
Maybe it is. Tom Hanks is in a lot of movies. But yeah, and he's a liquid metal Terminator, and he's got these kind of pointy elf ears, but he... and so he takes the form of a cop for the majority of the movie. Of course, he can shift, and he does at certain points. But yeah, and then they send Arnold Schwarzenegger back to protect him. And so within the first 15 minutes, we're into a set piece that is taking place first in the mall, and then out into like the spillways in LA? Those
The
viaducts. Yeah. Where they're, running away from the Terminator, and then
these computers are efficient. They found him very quickly.
Yep.
They don't let you rest for a moment. You're like, okay, Sarah Connor, John Connor, Terminators.
And again, so especially...
I have a quick question.
Yes.
Who sent Arnold back to protect him?
Great question. He did. He sent Arnold Schwarzenegger to protect himself.
John did.
Yes, in the future.
Brilliant.
Yeah, no, it's some
really
weird shit.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
He also met his dad in the future and sent him back to fuck his mom, which is a really...
That doesn't make sense.
It does, but...
He met his dad in the future and sent a future version of him to the past. That future version no longer exists then. My mind.
Yeah, and just time travel,
I just want Neil deGrasse Tyson, who could have been in this movie, to come on and also explain to us time travel. I feel like he knows. I think he knows.
For sure. He's in Twitter jail, though, right now.
What? Hillary said she's met Neil deGrasse Tyson. Did he tell you anything about space travel? Or time travel?
Yeah. He told me that time is a flat circle.
God damn it.
Said McConaughey, get out of here.
All right. So, we're going to get to, right now, the most exciting part of the whole story and why we're here today and why it's strong female lead, which is Sarah Connor. And she's brought into the film here. They find her in a mental institution. Because, in a very almost poetically prescient form of screenwriting, despite the fact that there was no question. I mean, in the first movie, he killed 30 cops in a police station, a robot. They're...
6 other women named Sarah Connor were murdered point blank by this guy who,
And again, when he killed the 30 cops, they emptied 14 clips into this guy and everything too. So it's not not just the
those
FBI.
clothes healed.
But, everybody would figure out okay, there's some stuff here, going on. And we find out later in the film that they
didn't have the internet.
And spoiler alert, but they find out actually that they actually found the chip in the arm from the first one and everything. So despite the fact that there's proof and evidence that, yes, there are fucking killer robots from the future getting sent back in time, and it has to do with this woman. Nobody believes her. She's gaslighted and put in a mental institution. That's where the movie starts.
That's where you put all emotional women.
It's a pretty interesting place right there. And again, the first movie, she starts out pretty kind of helpless and kind of grows into kind of her agency and her kind of badass. In this movie, I mean, she's in a way, starts obviously held back because she's in this mental institution, but you can tell, and that's actually Silverman is the psychiatrist, and he plays it wonderful. He's actually from the first movie, and they actually brought him back. And he's just, making a career out of essentially just gaslighting this woman about what happened to her. And you can tell there's been a number of violent incidences because she's tried to come back, and she's just ripped as all shit.
I love that. I love that the first scene that you see of Sarah Connor is her doing those badass pull-ups, and her arms are ridiculous. I'm like, oh my God. # fitness goals. Just one pull-up, not multiples like she did. Just the one.
Me too. Flex arm hang, at least get 15 seconds. I'm not kidding. I couldn't do pull-ups growing up and everything like that.
Me either.
I could do the flex arm hang.
I want to pass the presidential fit test as an adult just so I can be like, I know Trump can't do this. And I just beat you at your own thing. Me Yeah, but she's just such a badass, and she's in there doing her like fucking pull-ups. And the great thing is that even though she is in the mental hospital, her doing like something physical kind of lets you know that she's like still got like her wits about her, and that like something's off with them keeping her here. As somebody who hadn't seen the first one, I was like, okay, so she's in the mental hospital, but she seems perfectly fine, at least physically extremely fit and ready for whatever Terminator shit is going to happen next.
Yeah, and you find out also that, like, you know, the place is run by creepers, and, like, that scene from Kill Bill with, like, the creeper in the hospital when she's, like, comatose, who's, like, you know...
She bites his tongue off, right?
Right, yeah. All of that, though, I mean, started with this movie was the first one to really kind of do it, and...
That's so disgusting.
And it is, and those are the things where it's kind of, like, the cheaper bit of writing to where, you know, obviously you're setting up a woman and you're having just some dude who's, like, just the most gross sexually abusing her way, where it's very easy to obviously show that they're awful people, and just a kind of a cheaper way for them to get there, but they don't stop there. And so very quickly it all goes to shit because the T-1000 shows up to the mental institution at the same time that Arnold and John Connor show up. At this point in time, Arnold is good, he's coming back in there, and John Connor has figured out that he can pretty much tell Arnold Schwarzenegger he's got his own personal kill robot that looks like Arnold Schwarzenegger. And so they go in there, they pick up Sarah Connor. At first she's like, you know, terrified of Arnold Schwarzenegger because, you know, as she should be, but then realizes very quickly and gets out of there and starts pretty much at that point in time, she runs the fucking movie.
Yeah, she demonstrates all of the agency in the world. She's like, oh, great, thanks for assisting me, kind of, in getting out of this mental hospital. She was pretty much out anyway until Arnold ruined it. So I'm going to go ahead and call that she got out by herself.
So what are the checklists for a strong female lead? Let's go through this.
So a strong female lead. So they need to be top billed in the film.
Okay.
Check. And they need to display their own agency.
Okay.
And then finally, they need to move the plot along.
I got you.
So the plot is moving along, but I think it really starts to run once Linda Hamilton is introduced to the story, and then it really picks up. Because we're following John Connor meeting Arnold, and then they go get Linda, and then they're like off to the races. But Linda really is doing her own thing, like with or without Terminator and her son. She's going to get A, B, and C done to prevent this apocalyptic event.
100%.
So.
And then that's what speaking toward, I think, your criteria of agency and moving the plot along. So the entire third act of this film is fascinating because it essentially she realizes that Arnold tells her that it's this thing called Cyberdyne Systems, exactly who it is that's going to cause the apocalypse, and she's like, I'm just going to fucking kill this guy. Yeah. Like, which I also just love. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
no
shit.
questions. She never asks a question. She never asks for, especially she never asks for permission to do anything.
And actually to the point where it actually causes a big problem, and actually, and that's where not only she have agency, but she has agency to make mistakes, and she's so determined to stop this that she not bring other people into it to the detriment of everybody involved. And so, it's fascinating because you go through all these different things where you get to see her as a badass, and she's got these awesome, monologues about how, and she's, it's a very proto-feminist thing in certain thing because they also talk about how, she's got this great monologue where Arnold Schwarzenegger's T-800 is a surrogate father for John, and how, he's better than any actual, trash dude because, he's never gonna get drunk or beat him. He's just he's never gonna sleep. He's just gonna be there always. And it was just oh yeah, that's really interesting. And it just, the whole thing was just really interesting in how they kind of developed that. But she runs the entire show for what the last 3/4 of the movie is. And it's amazing because you hit these different beats, but she goes out there, and then I'd love to get your take on this too. So we get to meet Dyson, who's the scientist at Cyberdyne, who's played by an African-American guy, and you actually meet him earlier in the film very briefly, but then she tries to kill him at her home with his wife and his small child there at the same time, and they're living in a very, very nice, posh, Beverly Hills kind of LA mansion and everything. And just there's never is a discussion oh, you're a woman, Sarah Connor, in this movie. That doesn't come up. It comes up in the first one more, but there was no oh, you're an African American scientist, and there's anything to that, which I thought was just, again, it's 91. It was just very, very interesting.
Yeah. It kind of had a Cosby Show vibe. It's she's Sarah Connor is just run into the Cosby's house. I'm wow, no, stop that. They're nice people. He didn't know he was creating this technology that was going to be, and that's talking about Arrival again, a tool and a weapon. Yeah. He's creating a tool. It's being used as a weapon. Yep. I love that scene. And my only thing that I was that I keep going back and forth about this movie in my head was the role of Sarah's sexuality in this movie and that being absent. I think it's absent because partially we're viewing the movie through the eyes of John Carter.
John Connor?
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's kind of why her sexuality is absent, because like we see her body is crazy. And this might actually be like more featured in the first one in that she has a relationship with John Connor's father. But this one, she's almost a machine. And until she gets to that scene, she's a machine on a mission, just like the Terminator. And then her humanity like butts up against her when she gets to the family's house, and she's like, "I'm shot a man in front of his child and his wife. What am I doing?" She like kind of snaps back into herself and the reality that she's also a mother and also has lost someone and is committing acts of violence. And then she kind of like, I love that scene, that reckoning scene. I thought that was wonderful.
You said that so perfectly, and that's why I love this movie, because for being a ridiculous action movie about time traveling,
I don't think action
robots,
movies are ridiculous. I think they inspire us. I think they're the most telling of like who we aspire to be as people. Like just like action, like superhero movies. I was like, it's always who you aspire to be, and then butt up against who we actually are and our shortcomings of actual people. This, I just thought it was played out really, really well.
Oh yeah, and we'll talk about that at the end of this podcast, because I got a good recommendation for you on that superhero regard. But yeah, I mean, it's our modern myths, and I think that what a lot of what Terminator represents is obviously fear about AI, the future, automation, in terms of a lot of kind of like just general fear that we've had going back to like Marxist critiques of factories and automation and just kind of the inhumanity of progress and and all this kind of stuff going on. And it's just done in a way to where particularly given the era that it exists in, the only other film that I think you can at all say that comes close to that is Aliens with Ripley, with Sigourney Weaver's character in those films.
There was like a solid 20-year break before you get to, I want to say like
Mad Max Fury Road.
Yeah, Katniss Everdeen was like the next re-up of these women who were like a badass, like not here about a boy, here to do like a mission with her own agency. Yeah. That's 20 years later. Yeah. I'm sure there's someone I'm missing, but like she's the first one that comes to mind.
We had G.I. Jane with Demi Moore.
G.I. Jane.
And legit. And then like there's a couple of things that, were blips here and there that kind of appeared. But like, again, it's just like what was such a unique thing about this is that Cameron his entire career has been able to, because he's just made he's printed money with the movies that he's made. And every single time, like they're like, all right, and he gets a bigger budget, and they're like, the suits all go crazy because like he's like, all right, well, I'm going to go ahead and like, build a moon for this movie or something crazy. And then he goes ahead and delivers, at least in terms of the financial result, and they just pretty much let him do whatever the fuck he wants. And I mean, sometimes, again, like in The Abyss, like, he traumatized all the people and almost killed them. The woman who was like the lead actress in that film still won't talk about it because it was such a bad thing. James Cameron also was married to Catherine Bigelow, who's director of The Hurt Locker. And you can see this through line to where I think this militaristic, kind of, that there's something that James Cameron particularly has a chubby for, just like Quentin Tarantino has for feet. But yeah, I mean, it's remarkable just because like you just don't get to see this. And like, as someone also who came from like a single mom, like I always love this movie because like it was something where you just saw this character that was just so unapologetically strong in things. And so when you guys started the podcast, I was like legitimately like, dude, Terminator 2, because like I've always felt this movie, like one of the things that makes it so great and so unique outside of the all killer action sequences, there's, I don't think, a moment in this movie that doesn't hold up. I mean, in terms of like,
I would see this remade in 2020 shot for shot. I don't feel the need to change anything but to update the graphics to what we can do now.
And you're even barely doing that because there's like some stuff with the T1000 that it could be a little bit cleaner now, but like they're also so restrained in when they use that, and they had like the Mercury shots and all that kind of iconic shit. They didn't. Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. Like it would be a shot for shot remake, right?
There would be no. And I mean, I would change some casting things, but other than that.
Not fucking Budnick. Maybe put donkey lips in there.
Let's put the adult Budnick in there.
Ugly and donkey lips. God, yeah. I have to see. Have you seen any Roccos?
No.
I heard very good things.
Interesting.
Yeah, and then a bunch of people were upset because apparently one of the characters is transgender and they, ruined their childhood with SJW. So it sounds like a ringing endorsement.
Your childhood is ruined. Wow.
That is my.
That's the thing. That was the last thread to be pulled. And
the language that's been used on the internet to describe what's happened to people's childhoods when it comes to like remaking a movie or something. Like, I didn't watch any of the new live action Disneys. I'm like, I don't give a shit. No. Like, does it bother me? No. And like, if I had kids, I'd probably go see them because like, what else are you gonna do on a Saturday?
Exactly.
Talk to each other.
Ridiculous. Don't even suggest it. That was so scary.
Have you seen any of the new Disney live?
Yes, I personally really love the Beauty and the Beast remake. We did it on the podcast. It was fantastic.
Oh.
But I refuse to see The Lion King because I don't want it. I never wanted it.
Oh.
I want the original. If you're just going to, again, update the animation, no new voices.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No need.
No need.
It was perfect the first time.
Yeah.
Unless you're going to change the story or retell it from a different angle. Why are you spending so much money on what was already... It already won, like, Oscars. Like, you're not going to improve in any way upon...
What the original
was.
Yeah.
I thought the Cinderella one was pretty good because you can retell that story over and over and over again. And
yeah.
It's never going to be great. It's just always going to be average.
It's all going to be pretty basic. Like, yeah, all right, yeah, Slipper, get it.
It's like Snow White. We're like,
Charming.
okay, cool. Where are the dwarves?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Introduce a new dwarf. I'd watch that movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was the new
like
dwarf?
A very right-wing dwarf. He's probably angry already. No, he's just sad.
Well, like, incel the dwarf.
I would watch that. That's a movie I would co-sponsor. If someone needs funding to get that off the ground, just an audition reel of like new...
Like, are these all... like, I'm picturing 7 dwarfs and like one's an incel, one of which is like, you know, like dipping and really into like, you know, like long guns, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, is this the whole like...
I would watch that. I would watch that. If that was a YouTube series, I would tune in every day for new suggestions, new people. I would want that.
I'm picturing like the troll dolls, like the trolls, you know what I'm saying? But like we should just get those troll dolls and then just give them right-wing characteristics, you know what I'm saying? Like, so
yeah. And some like super left ones because I think they're hilarious also.
Oh yeah, Marianne Williamson's definitely getting a troll doll.
I love her. If she makes it to the ticket, it's gonna be impossible not to vote for her. Impossible. She is a riot. I cannot wait to see her and Boris Johnson just go toe to toe, just crazy on crazy.
She. I mean, like, whatever. I will say, what bothers me is that, like, I think that she shows, because when she can get up there in the debates and talk about something like reparations or something and get a better response than any Democratic Party, like, you know, like. A person on stage. That's a telling thing about, like, I think where our politicians are in terms of need to be out there.
Because no one's watching the debates to see, like, what's his face from New York talk to Joe Biden. Marianne Williamson and Elizabeth Warren. I would take John Delaney. Talk to each other. I want you to talk to me. And Marianne Williamson and Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders are all talking, addressing whoever asked them the question, but we're talking to us, and I think that's what made them, as individuals, successful in the debate.
The best joke I heard, which is also terrifying about her, and I think it was on Twitter, which is that, like, you know, people see Marianne Williamson, especially in the first debate, because the second one she actually, like, was not all... We need to use the power of love, and moonbeams and secret angels will come in, and Kim Jong-un and Donald Trump will be gone. So Marianne, like, you know, you watch her and she gets up there about moonbeams and love and all that kind of shit, and like everyone from the East Coast and the Midwest is sitting here watching the TV, like, who the fuck is this kooky lady? And everybody in the West Coast is like, I know exactly who that woman is, and she reminds me exactly of my medical doctor. and that's Marianne Williamson and what's fucking terrifying about her. So yeah, but all right, we got kind of off track, but what's
But we were talking about our own dystopian future. We can talk about Terminator's dystopian future.
And I think that, you know, a lot of people are like, well, it happens in, I think 2029 is when it's looking a little like that way.
I mean, I'm blaming it all on almond milk, not yeah, it's the almonds. It's people in the almonds. Yeah, they're taking up too much water to grow all these almonds.
I see. So time-traveling robots sent back in time to kill us and cause a robot apocalypse.
Because, the nature is out of balance, and so massive population control is needed. So they had to, like, eliminate most of California and get rid of those almond fields. Yeah. Because people just love them too much.
Yeah.
It's too sweet. It's too delicious. Gotta go with coconut. No, this is my honest soapbox. I think that avocados and almonds are ruining the world.
I don't really care for guacamole.
I love both of those things.
So
Yeah, I'm not going to stop doing it, but I would encourage anyone else who's just on the fence.
yeah, let's kind of wrap it up with Terminator 2.
Final thoughts. I loved it. I am excited for the new one. I'm really excited. I didn't originally think I was going to go see it, but it was someone put it in the comments that they wanted us to do it, and so I was like, I don't know about this, because I thought this movie actually was from the 80s. It's from the 90s, so it was safe to watch.
It's like 91. So
Just made it.
Yep. And I'd be happy to come back on after the new one. I don't know if the new one's going to be great or not. I hope so.
I'm excited because there's Linda Hamilton, a new Terminator who's a woman, and a new female lead who's the old Linda.
And they're bringing Edward Furlong back, and that's going to be interesting because he's had a rough go in the last 30 years or so since that. Yeah, it was. You think he was good friends with Corey Haim, and like there was just some.
I love Corey Haim.
Just some sad stuff that happened, I think, in that whole time right there, and probably some horrible things. But
it seems like this new movie is just a complete reset, deleting the past.
It is. That's
movies.
exactly what they're doing. They're getting rid of all the rest of them. Again, the only thing that will live on is Christian Bale. Let's hear that one more time.
Kick your fucking ass!
All right. All right. So.
She looks good in this.
Her hair is phenomenal, right?
She looks really great.
I'm telling you.
It comes out on November 1st, peeps.
November 1st. Okay, guys,
November 1st.
Get your calendars going. I'm gonna try to live tweet it when I actually see it, because I've got pull like that in society. Okay, I am going to give this movie 3.5 sets of butt cheeks, of glistening male butt cheeks, because I really liked it and I highly recommend it. I'm very excited for the next one. You know what? I'm gonna give it 4 sets of butt cheeks. I did really like it. Out of 5 butt cheeks.
4 out of 5 butt cheeks. Damn.
8 single butts.
8 single butts.
8 cheeks.
I'm gonna say that I love this movie T3000.
So did you multiply 1,000 by 3?
Yeah.
So 3 out of 5?
No. It's a scale of just T3000. I love this movie like as much as the scale is. Actually, the scale originally went to 1,000, but I love this movie T3000. So
it's off the charts.
It's off the charts.
I love it. Hillary, what do you think?
I was surprised as well. I will give it a 3 out of 5 silver sword arms. I do love this movie because they would just pretend to be other people because they can do that.
Yeah.
And he's like on the phone pretending to be this kid's like foster parents, and then they like pan out and he's got like his long sword arm through the dad's head, and he's like,
that scene with the milk fucked me up as a kid. Like that scene.
You can't swear on this podcast.
It really that scene like stuck with me particularly. Like that was like the one where like she's like stabs the foster dad, and he's the T1000 is the foster mom, and like it's through like a milk carton or something like that. It's pretty brutal. Yeah. So
guys, that's it. That's the show. That was Terminator 2. Thank you to Andrew O'Connor for coming on, being our podfather, putting us on to Terminator, and the amazing strong female lead, Linda Hamilton. I'm so excited. That sounded super sarcastic, but in a real way, I'm very excited for the new movie that's coming out in September. So get your tickets. I'm going to do my best to live tweet it. So if you're not already following us on social media, get on it. We're SFL_Chicago on Twitter, and we're at Strong Female Pod on Instagram. Next week's episode is on Dark Mirror. And remember, everybody, technology is the enemy. See you next week. Bye.